Welcome, everybody, to our 2026 Roadmap webinar series. Continuing along, I believe this is our fourth session already. It's March, the third month, fourth session, so we're moving along at a nice pace. In fact, we have one next week as well, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, linked open data editor for BibFrame. I am Yoel Kortick, Ex Libris Senior Librarian, and I'm joined here with Adina Marciano from Alma Product Management. Adina, thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule for us. You may recall me and Adina, or Adina and I, excuse me, giving, we've been doing this, Adina, I think since 2023. We've had at least one session in the 2026 Roadmap webinar series showing BibFrame.
Yeah.
Either the linked data info cards or all different cards. When we first got the BibFrame records in Alma, when they were created with an API, and how they went through the regular workflow with the purchase order lines, inventory, etc. So we're moving along, as you can see. And this is really a major step, what we're going to be seeing today, a very major step. But a few minor, quick administrative issues before we begin. So as I stated, this is part of the 2026 Roadmap webinar series. You can just go into Google and write 2026 Roadmap webinar Ex Libris, and it'll be one of your first results, if not the first result. So we are now March 5th, but let's just see where we are in the big picture here. We had a session in January on the relative date index. You may recall we used that relative date index to make a title level collection. I believe we said all new records about Krakow from a certain date using the relative date. We put that in Primo. Then we talked about the customized repository search bibliographic indexes with Erez, the indexes that you can make on any field. Then February, the AI-based tools in Primo V NDE, where we talked about the research assistant and the Ask Anything. And the linked open data editor for BibFrame is where we are now. Everything that I will be showing and more, in fact, much more, you can get in these presentations here. So everything I'm showing is in these presentations. I'm not going to go through the presentations except for a few slides here and there. And next week, in case anybody didn't register yet, next week, physical holdings retention. We already have the bibliographic record retention, the physical items retention, and now we have the holdings retention. Another point, the Ex Libris YouTube channel. Here you can get all of the recordings. For example, if I come to playlists, we have a playlist for the 2026 Roadmap webinar series with all of our previous, I can even order a pizza here, but all of our previous sessions here. So you're free to look there as well. And let's stop there. There's more to show. The Ex Libris webinars page. Let's actually take a quick look there. Ex Libris webinars, education. You don't even have to spell it properly and he'll get it first shot. There we go. So from the Ex Libris webinars page, you can view the recordings of previous sessions and you can register for upcoming ones. For example, here's an upcoming one, the one we're doing now, still upcoming because it hasn't completed yet. Last week's session here on demand where you can view the recording. Okay, and without further ado, let's jump into our session with the linked open data editor for BibFrame. And we're going to stick very close today to the time frames because we have a lot to show. We always have a lot to show, but we're going to stick very close to the time frames today. So what are we going to do? The first 15 minutes, including the first 7 minutes that have already passed, a general overview of BibFrame. Now, I want to stress here, we're going to talk about an overview of BibFrame, but only in the context of so that what we see in the BibFrame editor or the linked open data editor for BibFrame will be logical, because I've stated in previous sessions that there's no prerequisite for this session. So we're assuming there are people who don't yet know anything about BibFrame. So we're not going to give a whole session on BibFrame, but just enough so you'll understand the concepts we mentioned when we're talking about the editor. Then we're going to look very briefly at the metadata profiles for BibFrame. Then we're going to see how we can navigate around a BibFrame record, and then we're going to jump right in with the editor. And then the last 10 to 15 minutes will be Adina talking about future development plans, as well as if any of the questions that came up in the chat are something common that everybody may take advantage of knowing the answers to, we'll discuss. So without further ado, BibFrame. So a few general concepts. In this presentation here, you might want to look at it on your own as well. It's 39 slides. I'm just going to show very little, but there's even a questions and answers at the end if you want to test your knowledge at the end. And there's also a bibliography. So you've got the questions here, the answers here. You can test yourself, and the bibliography. I don't know these people at all, but I would recommend this article here. I found it very useful. I have no idea who they are. I don't get any commission on them or anything. Very good article if anyone wants to read on their own about BibFrame, but all good sources here. Okay, so the BibFrame. There's three main parts to a BibFrame record, or the BibFrame concept: a work, an instance, and an item. Where, never mind what all the fancy definitions are here, the work is what we call the intellectual expression or the intellectual creation, or here, the conceptual essence of a resource. The title, the subjects, the contributors and authors, for example. Then there's what's called the material embodiment, the instance. That might be two different publications for one work. It may be the same exact publications, but a different year. When I say the same exact publications, same title, same author, it's not an expanded edition. It's not an annotated edition. It doesn't have with a special forward by the author. It could be, and we're going to see examples, two different instances, two different material embodiments. It could even be an electronic version and a physical version, provided that electronic version is exactly like the physical, just a scan of it, not something special. And then there's the item. It's not the Alma term of an item. It's not something physical. It's not a book you take and put on the shelf, the item here. It's the physical or the electronic instance, the copy. It could be what we call a portfolio, or what we call a physical item, or what we call a digital file, part of a digital representation. And we're going to see examples of these. An important point of BibFrame that we're going to see is that it's using URIs, Uniform Resource Identifiers, instead of strings of text. In other words, if there's a book around the world, or any kind of anything around the world, let's take this MT. So this MT is a work. I'm doing now an all title search. I'm going to get an instance, but never mind that I'm looking at an instance for the point I'm making. This is, let's get into the BibFrame instance. So this, for example, MT stands for Mechanical Translation. This is a journal. And if there's an author, or if there's a subject, like the subject artificial intelligence. So all around the world, everywhere where there's MT, there will be a subject artificial intelligence with the letters ARTIFIC, et cetera, a string of text. And then if tomorrow Library of Congress determines that artificial intelligence is actually a non-preferred term and the preferred term is something else, or this Lord of the Rings, if this author, Jackson Peter, after 120 years, he passes away and he needs a subfield D in his 100 field, every record around the world needs to get updated. And every library system in the world has a method to update those headings, like we have an authority control task list and a community zone, et cetera, et cetera. When there's a URI, a Uniform Resource Identifier in the record, instead of a hard-coded text, there's no need to ever change anything because it's pointing somewhere else, Library of Congress, for example, And then that somewhere else will make the change and everybody's record stays the same. What I'm stating here will become more clear as we see it, but those are two very important principles of the BibFrame, that we're using URIs instead of strings of text, and that we have a work, an instance, and an item. Let's look at two different records, and that will help us understand the concepts. And before we look at those two specific examples, let's see something else here. By the way, I'm on a May release right now. Am I recording? Yes, okay. I'm on a May release, so what I'm showing may be a little different than what you may see if you're in a February release, which I assume most of you are. Sunday, you'll be on a March release. So first of all, I have BibFrame enabled here. If I come to configuration, bottom left, and resources, I have activate linked open data formats. Anyone who wants to activate linked data, you just click there and you check the box here, activate BibFrame. So I have it activated, so everything I'm showing I have. And if I come to resources and I come to metadata configuration, this is where I have my profiles. And you can see that we have profiles here for the BibFrame work and the BibFrame instance. And I'm just going to very briefly look at an example here. So for example, I'll take title. I'm going to look for title in the label. And so main title, just as an example, you can see here, it's mandatory and it's not repeatable. But if I look at a variant title, what would be a 246, it's not mandatory and it is repeatable. And there's other definitions here as well, which we're not going to get into at this stage. My point is I want to state that there are definitions of the various fields that are used as part of the BibFrame records, similar to the way we have profiles for the Mark and Dublin core, where also there are definitions per field. Let's go look at some examples now. So we already went through the table of contents and we already went through the introduction to BibFrame. So there's 3 sample records here, but let's look at 2 sample records because of our time. But again, you're welcome to look at all of these presentations on your own. In fact, you're strongly encouraged to look at them. So I'm going to point out a situation where we have one work with multiple instances and another one where we have one work with, or 2 works, each with their own instance. So let's start with the first example here. This is one work with multiple instances, and let's see why. So The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. So I'm going to go do a search here. Let's start with a works search. So I can search directly just by the works. And if I say I want The Feminine Mystique, here is my work. And I can see here on the right that if I come to the instances section, this is the same interface if you do an all title search, the next gen interface that we showed, I believe, already 2 years ago, where I can put this into a not split editor or the split mode, various ways, and I can go full screen, etc. In any case, so this is one work with multiple instances. The 2 instances are different year publications. One's from 1997, one is from 2013. But other than that, it's exactly the same pagination, same subjects. The only things that are different is what I'm going to talk in terms of mark, because that's what I know everyone understands, or most people understand. So it's like I've got my 008 position 7 to 10 with the year and my 260 or 264 subfield C. Those are different, but the 100s, 700s, 600s, the subjects, the author, they're all the same. The medium in the carrier, the 336, 337, 338, if people are cataloging an RDA, those are also different, but those are on the level of the instance. If I come and I look at these instances, for example, I'll look at the first instance first, edit record, which is already going to bring me into the BibFrame editor, but I'm not going to go into the details of it now. We're just going to look at what's different. So I'm looking at the first one here. So this first instance has a year of 2013. You're already saying, wow, that's the BibFrame editor, for those who have never seen it before. So we've got a year here of 2013, and we'll also have media and carrier type. Now, this is an N, but I'm going to come here to the lookup. We'll talk about the lookup later. So this is actually a unmediated. If someone was doing a 336 and put an unmediated volume, so unmediated, and here NC, the volume. So we've got those as well. So this is 2013. Then, I'll save that. Then if we look at the next one, here's the next one, which is 1997. So this one's different than the previous one because it's 1997 and has different dates. The medium here actually will be the same because it's also text volume or etc. Let's just take this in here. Unmediated. And this is just a label, what's showing here, by the way. That's the URI behind the scenes, this thing here that's being saved. So that's our example of one work, The Feminine Mystique, with two instances. If I were to search on the level of all titles for The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan, so I would see here that there are two instances, each one related to that one work. Now let's see another example. I'm going to skip sample record 2 for time, and we're going to go to sample record 3 instead, or we'll just let's take 2 and not 3. So now we're going to look at something where there's not one work in two instances, there's two works in two instances, because now each work, even though they're both going to be Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I know people say Bronte different ways in different countries, so excuse me if I said it wrong in your country. So here we have two works, each with its own instance, because each work here is its own intellectual expression. Because one is an audio edition, one is a physical edition, but the audio edition is actually an adaptation. It has performers, for example. Let's go take a look. It doesn't only have authors. It might even have different subjects. It's definitely got a different genre, the LCGFT, Library of Congress genre terms. Let's go in and take a look there. So here, let's stay in the all titles. Here, if I say Jane Eyre Bronte, and here I see they're both Library of Congress BibFrame instances. If I look at the first one, here I'll do view instead of edit. Now let's do edit. So it's automatically opening now the editor for BibFrame. In this one, we'll have, for example, a carrier type volume unmediated. This is the physical one. It's 23 centimeters. It's got everything physical, 637 pages, etc. And in the creator or the agent or the author, creative responsibility, it's got Charlotte Bronte, edited by Jane Jack and Margaret Smith. So that's an instance, and then I've got another instance here. I'm going to say edit record on this instance. In this instance, let's go down to our carrier. So here we've got audio disc in audio. It's different. And if I look at the works, you can see here also, this is audio non-musical, and this is book. If I come here and I look at the works, we're already starting to see a little bit of the navigation, but we'll go more in depth on that. So let's say here we want Jane Eyre. I've got both works, each with its own instance. This time I'll do view work. So this work, let's go edit, and then I'll go in. So this one here has the authors, the subjects here. I'm going down to subject. And it's going to also, here's the genre here as well. And it will also have the author and only an author, because I'm not taking the ones with performers. We're going to see in a moment that there are performers. I've got these three here, an author and two contributors. This is in a section, contributor role contribution. One author and two contributors. On the other hand, if I were to come now and say edit record here, this one has not only authors and contributors, has performers. That's why it's different works. Anything with something different on what would be in the mark world, 100, 700, 600s would have its own work. So here we have performers. We don't only have the contributor, we have performers. Okay. I see someone keeps asking that they don't hear me well, and everyone else says they hear me fine. So it must be on your end. Oh, someone says on and off. Okay. My internet is fine. Everything. Okay. Someone else says they hear okay. All right. So let's stop there and let's now jump right in. So now we're going to talk about how can I edit a new record? Excuse me, how can I edit an existing record? Then we're going to talk about how can I create a new record? And then we're going to jump right into the editor. But before we get into the editor, we're first going to see, how do I get to edit a record in the first place? So we already saw, for example, if I were to search here by MT, I found MT. I search directly in the works. If I click edit record, it opens the BibFrame editor, or the linked open data editor for BibFrame, which we'll talk more about. And from here, I can release it, save it as a draft. In fact, let's save MT as a draft. MT is one of my favorites. So I'm going to keep that in there as a draft, and we're going to play with it as we go along. Then let's say I search now all titles for an instance. I can, on the one hand, just do any search and then facet by the instance. Let's say executives. I have all titles that have a keyword executives. And then if I come down here on the left and I facet by BibFrame instance, I have now only ones that are BibFrame instances. And let's take who's who in professional. That's a serial. Let's take a monograph because MT is a serial. The Woman's Guide to Executive Success. I'm going to say edit record here. And I'm just going to close. I worked on it. I did something. I'm all done. I'm just going to click the X. Now, I can also get to those records if I go right to cataloging, catalog BibFrame records. Here on the left, I've got resources, cataloging, catalog BibFrame records. From the catalog BibFrame records, I can see everything that I already opened and started working on and did not save and did not release, or that I saved as a draft. For example, MT, which I said is one of my favorites, I saved it as a draft, so it's here. The Woman's Guide to Executive Success, I started working on it, and then I just clicked the X. Jane Eyre, same thing. I started working on it, and then I just started doing something else. I can release it from here. I can say release record. Or I can edit from here. If I click the pencil, it brings me to that metadata editor that I was in also when we did the repository search and I clicked edit, but rather than being in that smaller sliding panel, now I've got a dedicated section here, which I can make larger, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. I can also see that this is a work. For example, if I were to come here to the searches again, we had searched for executives and then we faceted by LCBF instance. I can also search from the beginning that I want instances. So for example, if I were to say here that I want record format contains the phrase LCBF instance and subjects contains intelligence. I got MT again. Now this one's an instance. I'm going to say edit record, start working on it, and I want to come back to this later. I'm not going to click release. I'm not going to save it as a draft. I'm just going to close it here or just even start doing something else. Let's come back to resources, cataloging BibFrame records. So now I have MT as a work and I have MT as an instance. And I can also come and say that I want to filter only by the works. And now you can see I only have one MT and everything else I have here is a work. See the work. Or I can say I want only the instances. This is everything that I'm working on. These are the instances. And let's say I want all of them. And it's by default by draft modification date descending, meaning the most recent ones are going to be on top. Or I can do it, for example, that I want title ascending, whatever. So now we're ready. We're right on time, actually. We're exactly a half hour in. We've covered the introduction to BibFrame, just as a, what did we do so far? We covered the introduction to BibFrame, and we covered the navigating, the examples of the works and the instances, how to get to edit a record. Now we'll do how can I create a new record from scratch, and then we'll talk about the BibFrame editor. So now we're on creating a new one. So from here, from where I am in the catalog BibFrame records, we have on the top right a link there to create new record. And there's a very intricate, when I say intricate, I mean well-developed methodology of using templates, which we're not going to get into today. I'm just going to show that I can create a work or an instance from a template, but not how to manage templates. But there's a whole section. Let me do cancel a second. There's a whole section here on managing BibFrame templates. We could do an hour session just on that. We could do a 2-hour session on that. Anyway, but not today. Where were we? So I can say here, create new record. Let's start a work from, let's do an instance, create from template. And then I have all the templates that I've made. The ones that state Alma dash, this one, and this one, these are the default out of the box templates. The ones that have Yoel, Alicia, or Yoel or Yagaloni in Biblioteca here, those are ones which someone made. I made this one. It's got, and I just put my name in there. So if I, for example, take this one, so that's going to bring me to create an instance. And in this template, I have certain fields already there. Some of those fields even already have text. Just like if you're creating a Mark 21 record, you can have a template that has the 245, the 100, and the 650, and the 650 already has a subject written in it. So if I say here catalog, it's going to open this instance. And let's see what we got. So some fields are already filled in. The mode of issuance is single unit. The place is Poland. The place is Krakow. The agent is the University Jagiellońska. Publication statement is already filled in that it's Krakow and the University, Jagiellonian University. Main title is here, but it's empty because we're not going to fill in the main title already in the instance, in the template. So I have some fields already filled in, and then I can start working. And that works the same way. I'm going to get out of here. The same way if I had said create new record on a work and also from a template. So now I get the templates for the work. I also have one for the Jagiellonian Biblioteca for the work. And same thing here. If I catalog this and I happen to have a lot of records from the same Biblioteca Informacja, etc., in Polish and English, then I could use this every time and have some of my record already filled in. That's creating from a template. We can also create from scratch a record. Now, these just saved these little drafts here when I started, but I'm going to get rid of these. I'm going to say release this record, and I'm going to release this one. I should have said my disclaimer at the beginning. I have a disclaimer in one of those slides. What you're seeing here might change one day. We're still, as you know, at the early stages of this, but definitely at a monumental era. So now I'm going to say create new record. And I'm going to say from blank. Now I need to choose the class as work. In the subclass, let's say my subclass is going to be cartography. And I can choose multiple subclasses and then catalog. And now it opens. I didn't have to choose the class and subclass when I chose the template because the template already includes the subclass. Now I'm doing from scratch, from nothing. So all I have is the title, and then I need to add fields. And we're going to talk about adding fields in a moment. So that's creating from scratch a work. And then let's get out of here. I can also create a new record from scratch for create blank for an instance. Again, I'll choose a subclass. Let's make this printed. Let's make it tactile material. That's an interesting one. Tactile material. So now I'm creating an instance for tactile material. And again, I have very limited fields here. And I didn't use a template. Now I would do the main title, and then I would add fields. So now we'll move on to using the BibFrame editor. Excuse me. So now, everything we did until now was just an introduction to see the editor. So let's see the editor. So now we're into the real meat of it. So let's do an example here. Let's continue with the MT. So let's say resources, cataloging, catalog BibFrame records. And let's start with a work. So I could start coming around here looking for the work MT, but let's say I want MT. I'll look for anything with MT. And I only want the works. There's only 2 of them, but let's pretend we have a lot of MTs. Even though we're glad we have 1 MT, but if we had many, we could go to class and say, I want only the works. And now I'm going to edit. So I'm clicking here, the pencil. And now we can start editing. So let's see what we've got here. First of all, I can move around the record using the sections on the left. For example, instead of scrolling all the way down to the subjects, I could just click right here, and I'm right at the subjects. There are sections and independent fields in the metadata editor. There are sections when certain fields are dependent on other fields. For example, here's a great example. The LC classification here is this classification item number depends on the classification number, or it's a continuation of it. This relates to this, the assigner relates to this, and the status relates to this. So it's a section, and I have the add field inside the section. Then there's ones like the title, excuse me, the subject. So the subject is not a section. Let's add our own subject now. So I'm going to add a subject by saying add field. Subject topic, add field. I'm not adding a section, I'm adding a single field. So on the bottom, I'm going to say add field, not this add field. This add field is part of this section, and that would add a field to the section. We're going to do that soon. This add field will add its own field. So I'm going to say add field. I'm going to add a property of subject, a class. Everything has a property in a class. We're going to talk more about that when we talk about the information link. And this will be topic. And now I'm going to add it. So that added the field. Now I'm going to add the contents to the field. So there's two ways I can add to a field like this. If I click this pencil, it says manual input of data. So I could do that and say, I want to put in blue scarves. Scarves? Let's say blue scarves. How do you say scarf in plural? Scarves. And let's say this is http://scarves.com. Dot blah, blah, blah. Save. I've done it manually. Let's do another one. Add field. Subject. Topic. And now I'm going to use the lookup. Now this lookup is really nice. I'm going to click here. Now I can look in these various sources for what subject do I want to put in here. Let's say I want LCSH, and I have their artificial intelligence. Let's see what other intelligences we have. Intelligence levels. So let's say we want intelligence levels. Select. It's actually going to put this in the record we're going to see. Select. Now I've got that there. Now I'm going to save this record and come back just to show you something. So we added blue scarves with our own URL. Then we took the URI. Then we added intelligence levels. I'm going to save that record. And let's go see what happened here. So let's go to the subjects. So they got added here. Here's the blue scarves and the intelligence levels. I'm going to remove the blue scarves. We don't want it. I'm going to say edit. And I can click the X here to get rid of a field. Now, I also could have added a field here by clicking this duplicate field. And that will give me the same field already. Now I don't have to choose the property in the class because I had a field that already existed and I just did duplicate. When I went to the bottom and did add field, I had to give it a property, a class, save it, and then it went with the other ones of the same field. When I duplicate it, it's all automatically already done. Again, I can come to the lookup. I'll look up something else. Fun. Let's see if there's anything with yes. Not the fun I was looking for. Let's take the code for Midwest Worlds of Fun, just so we have something. Now, notice this is, that's the number. I'm going to copy that because I want to show something. Select. And there it is, save record. Now, everything I've got in this record, we're seeing these are labels. It's not the actual data that's in the record. So if tomorrow this machine learning or a code for Midwest Worlds of Fun was to change, nothing in the record here needs to change. It changes whoever's responsible for that heading. As an example, let's say I were to have searched for this MT. That was the work, right? So let's go to the work. And I'm going to say, I'm going to click it. I'm going to come to work record. This is really nice. You can view this as RDF-XML, a tree, RDF-XML, a table. We'll leave this turtle for another time. There's turtles and there's owls, but we'll leave those for another time. So if I come to this RDF-XML, all of those subjects that we saved before, I'm going to click that one. Here, this is the one that's got the URL that we wanted to go to before. This here. So this is where I'm saying that it's saving the record with the URI. And these are all of the subjects. All of these are the subjects. And I'm going to come over here. Great. And I'm just going to go in there just to show. I took one of the subjects. I don't know which one, but this is the subject that we put inside the work. This is what I meant when I said before, we're not saving strings inside the record like we do in a Mark 21 record. By the way, Unimark in that sense is probably people on the call using Unimark from Europe. Unimark in that way was kind of ahead of its time. From the beginning, Unimark would use an identifier, and then it just changes wherever someone's using that identifier. But we don't want to get into all kinds of theories here. So this is the machine translating. That's one of the subjects in the MT. And if there was a change, if it's no longer called machine translating, but machine translating text or something, it would change here once, not all around the world in everybody's catalog. Let's add a section, and let's this time take an instance. So I'm going to go into the instances. I'm going to do an all title search. Let's search for blue. And let's say I want to limit this now to just instances. So I'll come down here to the instances, record format instances. We saw that I could have searched from the beginning only for that. So we have beautiful blue eyes, blue lace, and self-portrait with blue scarf. Let's take blue lace. Blue lace has inventory. And let's say edit record. Or better yet, I could say, yeah, I'll say edit record here. Okay, I'm going to go to full view. So now I'm taking it from the repository search. I'm not taking it from that catalog record. So what do we have here? Source of acquisition, note. Okay. So this note is a section, or could be, is a section. Because the applies to relates to the label. I'm going to take a picture of this just for something. And let's put it here, because we're going to add one now. We never have enough time. It's already 46 past. But we want to at least add a section. I'm going to remove this. So I can remove a section by clicking an X here. It says remove section. And I'm going to add a section now. So now I'm going to add section. So I've got property and class again. So let's say I want this to be note and note. Add section, notes, add. Now I've added the section. Now I want to add fields. So if I look at the one that was already there, I've got a label, RDFS label, and applies to. So let's say add field. Let's put in anything we want. Oh, award note. Let's do that one. Because award note's a nice example because it's textual, but it doesn't have a property. Not everything has a class. You see, I don't have a class there. Let's say we want, let's do this. Okay. I'm going to add a note with a class. Add. let's make this. Okay. All right, we'll keep it as this. We don't have too long. 23 centimeters. Add field. And applies to none. Okay. I'm going to save this. And now let's come back in. We're in Blue Lace. Edit the record. And now we'll have a section as well. Full view. And here we are. So parts, let's look at this one here. This is a nice one. This is dependent on this, or this relates to this. So with a section, part of it relates to another part. If I want help on any of these fields, let's take the blue eyes. And edit record here. By the way, you see that? Did you mean something new? Open. So if I want information on any of these fields, I could click on here. Let's say I want to know about this publication statement. So if I click here, I see a link to this. And if I click it, it brings me right to the Library of Congress explanation on that. Sometimes I will have a property and a class, like here. This is a nice section. Hardcover relates to this ISBN. If I click here, so now I have a property and a class. This is the class. The class always starts capital. Property always starts lowercase. And again, I can click here. I got the property identified by, and I've got the ISBN. Okay. There's a lot more to show, but we got 10 minutes, and I definitely want to give time to Adina. So you're encouraged to go through the rest of those presentations on your own. We will be having more sessions on BibFrame. We originally were going to do this session in May, in fact. And we said, well, we've already got this, even though it's only March, we've already got it working. We've already got a user group using it. We may as well show it, but we'll be back in March, in May. And also, by the way, one more plug. Sorry, Adina. One more little plug. Knowledge Days. Knowledge Days, both at Igloo and at Iluna. We're going to be doing a two-part session, Adina and myself. One part of the session, it's a double session. The first part is an explanation like I showed now, but in person. And it's going to be an hour and a half, not an hour. Then we're going to have hands-on exercises with Adina and I going around helping with the exercises. Okay, Adina, take it away, and sorry to take your time.
No problem. So thank you everyone for participating. I've been trying to keep track of all the questions that were showing up on chat, as there were quite a few. So if I missed any, I apologize. But I will first, there were some questions about future plans, so I'm going to first review our roadmap ahead, and if there are any questions that I haven't addressed after that, and if time allows it, I will be happy to address them. So first of all, we've been working over the past 2.5, almost 3 years with a linked data focus group and a group of early access institutions that were testing out our linked data editor, which is now available for all. And I wanted to, first of all, to say thank you and give you a bit of a taste of what each institution has been testing and working with. Some have been working in their sandbox environments, some have been working in production. Again, you can work with BibFrame alongside your standard MARC workflows, which I know are more robust because it's a gradual process. But now we do allow both. And they can live side by side, so we understand that it will be a gradual transition. You can have MARC, Unimarc, BibFrame, modes, DC, any format you need, you can use it at the same time within Alma. And we have different scenarios that I think will help you each think about how you would like to start working with BibFrame. You can either start by learning and cataloging existing records. There were some questions on the chat about how would it be one work or two works if we're talking about an audiobook. These are great questions. Again, I'm not a cataloger. I'm a product manager. I've been familiar with BibFrame over the past 3 years, and I've been learning the differences, and there are always questions and always nuances. And again, BibFrame follows WEMI structure. To some extent, there are differences. We do have plans for RDA, RDF as well, and I will touch on that briefly. But if you want to learn the differences, and you have to relearn to catalog in a sense, some of the ways to do it is to take an existing record and try cataloging in BibFrame. You can also start with special collections, as we're still on manual workflows. We do have plans to expand to automatic workflows as linked data sources and data pools are advanced, and we will plan integrations with them as well. We have institutions creating local records if they're part of a consortia, and they want to make sure that they're working on records that are only within their institution, so they can work with dissertations, for example, or cataloging the work with multiple instances, as you all demonstrated today. So I'm inviting everyone to join us on this journey and start learning, because it's time, it's a process, and we are allowing our institutions to make it at their own pace. So looking ahead, within 2026, we still have a lot coming. Some of these were asked on the chat as well. We're having additional enhancements planned for the editor, whether it's validations, working with the BibFrame interoperability groups, validation tools, versions, adding flexibility to how you can create, how you can work with the form display. We've had a lot of feedback from customers on having to all the scrolling down, and that they can't add the section or reorganize the section. So that's part of what we're planning on expanding by May release. Some of the enhancements you've already seen today, the ability to add a manual URI and label, have actions of creating an instance from a work directly, and easier functionalities as well. And of course, expanding our lookups to additional vocabularies as well. In addition, we have the linked data entities are going to expand in May release to support additional languages. In addition to English, we'll be extracting from Wikidata languages that are supported in the Alma UI as well, and 2 new entities of location and organization. We're aligning with the display that exists today in Primo. In addition, we understand that a lot of our users and institutions are part of collaborative networks, and therefore we plan to expand and support linked data consortial workflows and networks and workflows with editing within the linked data editor. If we share a work, share an instance, copy the catalog, etc. So this is going to be a lot of the work coming within 2026. In addition, looking ahead to 2027, we have linked data enrichment, which is our configuration available for MARC 21. We plan to expand it to support UniMarc as well, as requested by our UniMarc institutions. And RDA, RDF, there was a question on this on the chat as well. We would like to bring RDA, RDF up to speed and align with what we support for BibFrame. There are challenges that have to do with RDA, RDF on their own, for example, having a work and an expression and not just a work. But we are working on this. The designs are already underway, and we hope to develop throughout 2027. In addition, as you all mentioned, there are additional levels in BibFrame, including BibFrame item and the need for descriptive information on an item level. And we plan to add to the new Alma item search, which is coming, I believe, in August. After that, we will work on adding BibFrame functionalities to the new Alma item as well. So again, this is quite a journey. We've reached a major milestone. We're not stopping. We're moving forward, and there's a lot more to do. So thank you.
Can I just point something out, Adina? I just want to say something personal, if I may. We've been through this. I know it's kind of like I don't want to say scary, but a big thing. If you were to take, because I see we still have 4 minutes, if you were to take someone who doesn't know anything about libraries, imagine there are people like that, and you would explain to them MARC, and you would explain to them BibFrame. It's a lot easier to understand BibFrame. You start explaining to someone, oh, you put your publisher in the 260B in the date an author was born. Oh, he goes in the 100D. Oh, you put him in the 100. He's an added author. He should have gone in the 700. That's a very complicated system. We might not think it's complicated because we've been doing it our whole lives, but starting from scratch to BibFrame is a lot easier. Also, the whole makeup of it with the work in the instance that you have everything in common in the work. And then if there's anything different, it needs either a different work, or depending what's different, it might just be another instance. It's a much more logical system, and I think people will grasp it pretty quick, even if right now it looks like a whole nother language.
Yeah, I agree. As a one who's never learned to catalog, and have basically jumped headfirst into BibFrame, I agree on that one a lot. I do see we have 2 more minutes, and there are some more questions in the chat. If I have 2 instances, you have to have a work in order to create an instance in Alma. And if you want to Ferberize them in Primo, we've added to the Ferber tool configuration, you can Ferber by the URI as well, and not only by the label. So that way you can have the clustering of the works in Primo as well. So that is part of the additional functionalities which we have in place. Thank you, Jill. I appreciate if you can find these repositories for me. I would appreciate it. And I just want to say if there's any more comments. Are there any plans to give the AA metadata assistant BibFrame capabilities? Martin, that's a great question. We would love to do that, and we are looking into the possibilities. We would need to train the AI metadata assistant to work with BibFrame, as opposed to Mark that's been around for 60 years. And there is a lot of information online about Mark, which makes it easier for the AI metadata assistant to work with it. Initial testing with BibFrame is promising, but we would need to work together with a group of BibFrame experts to make sure we create the correct prompts to have the AI metadata assistant work well with BibFrame. But yes, that is definitely on our to-do list. Are there any other questions which I've missed? Can you link to NLI authority files? Mirav, you've asked that. The answer is yes. NLI authority files have support for linked data and have URIs. What we do need to add is support for the lookup surface itself to be able to extract and view NLI entities or records, authority records, and we have plans to add that as well. I think that is all, unless I've missed any questions or comments. How efficient would it be to catalog a title in BibFrame and transition into modern Mark? So the whole point of modern Mark is to make it easier to convert and crosswalk between Mark and BibFrame. Would you want to transition it? Then personally, I'm asking what's the point of cataloging it in BibFrame if you want to catalog in Mark. But the whole concept is to move to modern Mark, is to make the crosswalk easier to maintain. Let's see. Sorry, I know we're at time. When will Ex Libris transition from a hybrid system to a BibFrame native system? I think that really depends on our users. The more usage we see for BibFrame and the more advancement of BibFrame within more institutions will justify a transition to a native BibFrame system. That being said, we understand that Mark is not going away anytime soon. We have linked data capabilities for Mark as well, whether it's the linked data enrichment configuration and the entity cards, which work for all formats. We understand that we're talking about a hybrid environment for quite a while, taking a reality check. But again, it depends on our users and how much incentive or usage we see for BibFrame. For mixed directionality of scripts in RDF, Charles, I'm not sure I understand that question. Feel free to drop me a line online in my email, and I'm happy to take a look at that in detail. The thing that was always tripped me up on both WEMI and BibFrame is that there is a conceptual level above what we call work. Example, the plot and characters of Jane Eyre and the same text audio film. I think that would have to do with hubs, which is another level of BibFrame that the Library of Congress supports. And we are looking into what that would mean within a cataloging workflow and how we can implement it as well. Okay, so I know we've passed our time, and the chat is going on and on. So I think if there are any questions.
It's nice to see all the interest, but we'll have another session, I think, in May.
Yeah, I'll write my email in the chat also. If anyone wants to reach out, they're welcome to.
Okay, so thanks everybody for joining. We will be posting the recording, and we hope to see you next week for physical holdings retention. Have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.